and welcome back to the Joyful Soul Creates. Charlotte here, and today I'm sharing a card using the Simon Says Stamp July card kit, which I received at the end of last week. It came quite late, and actually I already received the August kit this week, so I probably won't be making many cards with the July kit, but I did make this one over the weekend before I received the August kit, and I thought I would share it. I might come back to other elements of the July kit later, but for now just this one, and I will share August kit's videos shortly. For this card I had the idea of creating a background using a piece of bubble wrap. I thought it would give the look of honeycomb, which is perfect for bees. So I'm starting with a cut down piece of bubble wrap, which I have inked up with Wild Honey Distress Oxide. I then have a panel of watercolour paper, and I'm going to press that onto the bubble wrap. Effectively, I'm treating the bubble wrap like a background stamp, bringing my paper onto it, and then I have a piece of printer paper, just scrap paper, that I'm placing over the top so that I can rub across it without getting ink all over myself. I'll then set that paper aside, and I'm going to use my reverse tweezers to help me lift off the panel, and here you can see how it looks. There's still a lot of ink left on the bubble wrap, so I did decide to spritz it with some water and get that ink moving, and then I'm going to bring in another panel of watercolour paper and again press it down onto that bubble wrap. This way I can pick up some more of that ink, and I did decide to add a bit extra water than I had initially just to make sure there was enough movement there. So then, as I said, I bring that second panel onto the wet bubble wrap to pick up the last of that ink. I'm going to bring back in my piece of print paper so that I can press down and get some nice even pressure across it. I probably could have taken another printing even because there was still some ink left on the bubble wrap, but I did decide to just leave it as these two. And it does give quite a different look, the wet one and the dry one, but I decided I would use the dry version on this card today. I picked out a cream card base to use for my card, and I thought I would ink the edges of my panel to help it stand out a bit better from the cream card base. So I'm using the Wild Honey again, and I have a stencil brush, and I'm just brushing around the edges just to add a little bit of colour. I'm keeping the centre much paler and more the original colour, so it's kind of fading in towards the centre. I also decided I would add some interest to my card base using the honeycomb stamps from the stamp set that came in the July card kit, and this stamp set is called Be Yourself, bee as in bees of course. I just want to stamp this honeycomb around the area where that panel is going to be. So I put the panel into place, used it as a guide to position the first lot of honeycomb, and then I'll pick it up on my Misty Door, and I'm going to stamp it with Barely Beige ink, which gives a really subtle impression. I don't think it really shows up in the video at all actually, and in real life it's very subtle. Almost subtle enough that you might wonder if it's really worth having it there, but I do think it adds extra interest around that panel. You can see it when you're holding it, to look at it. But if it's a bit further away, you can't see it. So if it's up on display, you probably wouldn't notice it. But if you've taken the card out of the envelope to look at, then you can see it. So I stamped it along the bottom right hand side of where the panel is going to be. So I decided to use the slightly smaller piece of honeycomb for the second stamping, which is on the top left hand side of where the panel is going to be positioned. I originally was thinking of using the larger one, but I decided to swap to the smaller one just to get a different pattern. I didn't actually line this one up properly in comparison to the card base, but again, because it's so pale, I don't think it matters too much because it's just adding subtle texture to the background. I laid the panel back into place to see how it looked, and I did decide I wanted to add a bit more honeycomb. So there's this tiny piece, there's just 3 hexagons, and I played around trying to work out exactly where I wanted to put those. In the end, I was thinking of kind of making a visual triangle between the 3 bits of honeycomb, and that's what helped me decide where to position all the pieces. Off screen, I took a sentiment from the same Be Yourself stamp set, and I stamped and white heat embossed that onto a piece of black cardstock, which I then trimmed down with my cutter line. I'll put Tombow multi-liquid glue onto the back of it, and with the help of my reverse tweezers I'm going to adhere that onto my bubble wrap panel. I then flipped it over and put foam tape all along the back, and after removing the backing I'm going to add that panel onto the card base over where I have put those subtle hexagons. And I haven't actually folded my card yet. It is scored, but I kept it unfolded so that it is nice and flat so I can get the panel into position easily. I then have this bee couple which I stamped, coloured and fussy cut off camera. I actually did a whole bunch of them whilst I was watching videos and adhered that into place again with my Tombow multi-liquid glue. And then as a final touch I'm going to add some Nuvo drops. These are Limoncello Nuvo drops, so they are yellow and they dry kind of clear. So these are the jewel drops, and I'm going to do 2 at the top of the card and 3 towards the bottom of the card. And actually the position of these was based on the sketch that I am following, and if you want to see the sketch you can find that over in my blog post, which is linked down below. You can find all the products I have used linked in the description box below. This card kit is sold out, but the stamp set for example is available, and this bubble wrap background technique is transferable to a lot of different projects. It works really well, as you can see, as a kind of abstract honeycomb, but you could stamp it in blue for example and make it look like bubbles for a watery background. There are a lot of different ways you could use it. If you enjoyed this video, do press the like button to let me know, and if you didn't enjoy it then feel free to press the dislike button. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. You could let me know if you've ever used bubble wrap to do stamping on a card, or perhaps you've used something else that's kind of unusual on your cards. Maybe you could let me know what that is. If you're not yet subscribed to my channel, you can subscribe by pressing my logo, which is showing on screen now. And there are also a couple of other videos that you may enjoy if you want to see more from me straight away. Otherwise, I will thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!